Hello and welcome to our Friday Mailbag. I'm Ed Alexander with Alexander Abramson, a business law firm in Florida. And today we're going to talk about a couple of questions, but also importantly, the SBA on the 13th, so on Wednesday, came out with an updated FAQ regarding the PPP loan. Now, if you recall from previous videos, one of the issues that's been coming up is whether or not a person is making an application in good faith. And the question was, did a business have to actually suffer economic injury to apply for the PPP loan, or was there some level of uncertainty required? And the statute specifically said uncertainty in the CARES Act. And so the SBA has answered that question and basically given a safe harbor provision to any business that received a PPP loan that is less than $2 million. Now, that is incorporating all of the affiliates. So if you have multiple businesses, they're going to aggregate all of those businesses together that are under common ownership. They're using the term affiliate. But this is FAQ 46 in the updated provisions of the SBA frequently asked questions for the PPP loans. And it specifically says, any borrower that, together with its affiliates, receive PPP loans with an original principal amount of less than $2 million will be deemed to have made the required certification concerning the necessity of the loan request in good faith. So this fully and finally resolves that issue of whether or not you made your loan application in good faith, as long as you are below the $2 million threshold with all of those businesses. On to the questions. So the first question today is from Todd. He asks a franchising question. He asks, do all three elements have to be present in order to have a franchise instead of a license arrangement? So if you don't charge $500 in the first 6 months, can you avoid a franchise? So let's just step back for a minute and go over the franchise elements. We have $500 or more in the first 6 months. We have common name or trademark, and we have what's called significant assistance. And in order to have a franchise, you have to have all three of those elements. So what Todd is asking is, if he doesn't charge $500 or more in the first 6 months, does he now fall out of the franchise definition? The short answer is yes, he does. However, there's a couple of things to be aware of. First, the $500 doesn't apply to a franchise agreement or just royalties. It applies to every element, everything that a buyer would pay a franchisor. So if the buyer is buying equipment, if the buyer is buying inventory, if the buyer is buying marketing materials, all of those are pulled together to see if the $500 threshold is achieved. And so usually we achieve that $500 threshold very, very easily. And so the area that most people look at is going to be significant assistance, and then second to that would be the common name. And so one thing to keep in mind is that we've got a lot of detail on this on the website. So if you have a question about what significant assistance is, please go look at the franchising section on our website. Okay, the second thing to take into account here is that although you're not a franchise, you may be a business opportunity. Now, the FTC has a rule regarding business opportunities, and you have to provide some disclosure and follow some rules. But it's clearly not as extensive as you would have for a franchise. So really important there. If you do not have one of the elements, you must check the FTC, and then certain states also regulate business opportunities. In Florida, we have, it's regulated, it's in Section 559 Florida statutes. You do have to provide a disclosure document, much easier than a franchise disclosure document, but you do have to provide it. And you also have to have some provisions in the contract that you enter with the buyer of a business opportunity. So just be careful. The answer is technically yes, you avoid the franchise area, but there could be some other traps that you fall into. Our second question is really not technically a legal question, but it's a question about business related stuff. So Tim writes in, sometimes I find it's hard to know where to look for solid information on business and entrepreneurship. What do you read, watch, listen to keep yourself tuned into the business ecosystem? Well, up until the pandemic, the local ecosystem was about staying in relationship with other professionals and other organizations like the Small Business Development Center, the UCF Business Incubation Program, and then other organizations throughout the area. In terms of a larger ecosystem, I listened to several podcasts. I really enjoy podcasts, actually, because for the most part, I can do that when I'm driving back and forth to work. The problem has been with the pandemic. Obviously, I wasn't driving back and forth to work too much, and so that time went down. But then also reading books. A good friend of mine gave me a strategy, again, pre-pandemic, where he would go over to a Barnes & Noble, grab 10 or 15 books, look through them, and decide which one had some information in it, and go and buy that book. And I enjoy that doing that as well, because it gives you an opportunity to kind of check out the book ahead of time. And sometimes, you get a book that really should be an article rather than a book. And then, magazines as well. Some of the magazines are focused on larger businesses, your Forbes and Fortune and things like that. But others, Wired and such, they are. And then also, I found on YouTube there are certain channels that are really devoted to small business and provide really good information about small business. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. I'll give you the specifics there. Okay, that wraps up our Friday mailbag for May 15th. Thank you for watching. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. If you do ask a question, I do want to let you know that we always ask permission before we use it on our Friday mailbag. And if requested by the questioner, we will certainly change the circumstances. We respect your privileges and confidentiality, and don't want to violate that. This is really just where we can put out good information to business owners that most of them are feeling. So thank you for watching. See you next week.